Hey folks, Keric the Pally here, and welcome to my take on Bastion, the isometric action RPG game from Supergiant Games. I'm going to start off with a few kinda negative things purely because they're important. It's worth me saying now that overall I do really like the game, so if you feel the need to comment, please wait until the end of the review before doing so. First things first, whoever classified this game as an RPG really needs to go and get their eyes tested. It's an RPG in the same kind of way that Gauntlet, Mario, maybe even Team Fortress 2 are RPGs. You play a role, there's some kind of story or backstory, and you can get upgrades for your weapons. Other than that, there really aren't any RPG elements to the game. Now, I'm a long-term RPG player myself. In fact, for many years there was a case for me that I blatantly didn't play other games because RPGs were the only damn thing I liked. I have since changed, but as far as this game goes, it didn't really reach any kind of an RPG level for me. The complete lack of puzzles, no progression by using items or weapons in the same way maybe Zelda would do, lack of stats, and there's not really any leveling in it either. All of that kind of added up to disappoint me in a way. I know you're probably saying that there is leveling in the game and screaming at your screen and all of that, but having completed it last night, the leveling's kind of coincidental. You don't notice it. I only noticed that I leveled when I could equip new drinks at the brewery, which kind of removes the whole point of it. I mean, I know you gain a little bit of extra health, but in all honesty it didn't seem to make too much of a difference to me, and leveling halfway through a level, I just didn't notice any difference between before and after, basically. The weapons can be customised. Essentially, they have a certain amount of upgrades to them. You find items which enable you to use the upgrades and then basically pay money to equip the upgrade. The upgrades can be kind of jiggled about between two options per level. So you can sort of customise the weapons, but you don't really level them up as such. In all honesty, I'm mainly annoyed with the hype surrounding the game. I'm not sure the game deserves the sheer level of hype, and the fact that the hype is kind of selling the game as something it's not, which is a really great shame. It certainly doesn't deserve the Game of the Year cries that have been bandied about. And the high score in reviews might actually be a little bit over enthusiastic now that I've played it. Strangely enough though, I'm kind of annoyed with myself for being annoyed with the game, which sounds stupid. It's kind of like going to the shop for a chocolate bar. You get the whole taste of it in your head, and you get there and the guy behind the counter says, "Oh, we don't have any of those left. This is kind of close, why don't you try it?" So you have it and it's enjoyable, but it's not really the same, and that's the problem with the hype. The game was built up to be something and it wasn't, and that is what annoyed me. But the game is so bloody nice on its own that I don't want to be negative about it. I just feel slightly let down. If the hype hadn't been pushing it as such a great RPG, I'd actually have been really happy with this game. So anyway, there you go. If you're into RPGs, just be aware this isn't one. However, what it is a really very polished action game. Considering it's Supergiant's first game, it's really good. The artwork is in a like hand-painted style, and along with the animation and the narration, really does work together. As a whole package, the game just works. Animation and combat are really smooth, apart from a couple of little niggles about auto aiming and silly things like backgrounds on the edge of levels looking like you could walk onto them, so you kind of have a little wander off the edge of the earth. Apart from little things like that, I really enjoyed playing the game. Difficulty in the game is kind of weird. It all hinges around there being kind of wave after wave of creeps as you go through each level. You can change the difficulty of the game obviously in the standard difficulty settings, but there are also in-game mechanics which allow you to tweak that. in the form of a shrine where each god that you worship gives you a bonus, but also gives enemies a bonus, so they may have, you know, extra speed or extra health or health regeneration, that kind of thing. So you can sort of tweak your gameplay a little bit, which is nice. The one thing, however, which does make the game stand out is the voice talent. It does have to be said that the narrator is barely out of short trousers. He's only 21 himself, but he manages somehow to convey such a worldly wise character in his voice, such a gravelly, deep, southern kind of American voice, that it really lends a lot of credibility to the story in the game.
We talk for a spell. There's a bit of the Bastion's power in that crest, enough to point the way to the cores. All I tell him is to set that core of his on the monument there, then watch. I try to let the kid down gently. This is the Bastion, alright, except no one else showed up.
His voice carries such a quality, in the way Morgan Freeman kind of does, that the sheer amount of commentary from him makes the game feel more like you're playing an interactive sort of storybook than anything else. All in all, it took me about 6 hours to finish the game, and that included about half of the challenges. You do have a set of challenges for each weapon, and you also have some flashbacks. I did pretty much all of the flashbacks, I think. I think it failed on like the last wave and the last one, so I stopped on it. Did have a couple of fails on a few levels, so I had to restart those, so you need to factor that in. But on a normal setting, I'm figuring that if you're a relatively decent player, you're probably going to be finishing up around somewhere between 5 and 7 hours, so you can use that as a figure towards whether the game's actually worth you picking up or not. Be aware there are a couple of endings, and with the amount of customization in game, you probably could get a replay or two out of it as well. So anyway, in summing it up, great game, shame about the hype. I've been Keric. This has been the very sexily narrated Bastion. You have a good evening now.